DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Inside to Stevenson, up against Kaminsky, Funky good in the ball!
Santel, all the way to the basket, foul, lays it in for 2!
Hello, high school basketball fans. Welcome to the Upstate Hoops Podcast here on Monday, January 26, 2026. I'm Jim Sinacropi along with Paul Russo and Kyle Evans here in the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And winter storm today, school's off. Maybe some of you are at home enjoying the day off after a morning of sledding and snowball fights. No games tonight, too. These late season snow days really kind of throw a wrench in the schedules. So hopefully it will be just this one day, and they'll find dates to make those up because sectionals is coming. So we got a great show today. We're going to talk about the Waterloo girls. Paul and Nate Sharman were in the gym in Bloomfield on Friday night to watch the Waterloo girls beat Bloomfield, get their take. Basically, Waterloo girls have been one of the premier programs in the Wayne Finger Lakes over the past several years now. So we'll get Paul's assessment of how they are stacking up this year in terms of sectional and postseason state maybe possibilities. Also, Class C is pretty interesting this year. There's 4 or 5 teams in there from the Wayne Finger Lakes that could be the Section 5 representative to the Far West Regional this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about Class C on the boys' side. Now that we've seen, Honeoye and Naples made up that game Saturday that was first started over a month ago, I think, and Honeoye got the win there, handing Naples a loss. So anyways, a lot to talk about. But before we get to it, the Upstate Hoops Podcast and all of our coverage of Wayne Finger Lakes High School basketball is brought to you thanks to the support of Little John and Barbie Orthodontics. Check out Dr. Rod and Dr. Liz online at littlejohnortho.com. And Cicino's Pizzeria and Restaurant. Order online at cicinos.com. And DeSanto Propane. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. Well, fellas, thanks for coming in here on a snow day. Big week of basketball in the rearview mirror. Now by next week's show, it'll be February, right? Or what's today's date? It'll be February when we're here next Monday. And that just means it's just a few more weeks, 3 weeks in total of the regular season before we start breaking out the brackets for sectionals. As I mentioned, a lot of stuff to talk about today. Let's jump right to the results before we even get into it. Look at the boys, Wayne Finger Lakes boys basketball scoreboard for the past week, where we saw Waterloo sneak by Marcus Whitman. Marcus Whitman just at 3-10, but gave the Tigers, a run for their money in Waterloo. Terrico Blue Eye had 20 points. Hayden Willett had 22. Lions stepped out to face Monroe, a good Monroe team, a good Class A Monroe team. 68-63, the Lions win. 24 points from Jameer Johnson. Geneva and Waterloo met in a rivalry game, and Geneva handled them pretty easily with a 19-point win. 4 3-pointers from Andrew Green, who led the way with 16 points. And then it was a pretty interesting week for Naples. Undefeated Naples traveled to face Mount Morris and came away with a convincing win against a decent Mount Morris team, 74-49. Colin Kenny's 25 points and Maddox Manelas, 25 points, led the way for the Big Green. And then they restarted the game that was canceled in the third quarter in December between Naples and Honeoye. And Honeoye handed Naples their first loss, finishing that game off. The longest game of the year, 72-54. Landon Washburn had 31, and for Naples it was Isaac Ward with 18. Bloomfield boys got a good win this week over South Seneca to improve to 8-5. Grady Rogers with 18 points in that one. And then the Newark boys held off Palmac 57-50. Colin George, 17 points for the Reds. And then it was Lions back in action on the road against York, coming away with a 78-60 win behind 24 points from Stephen Lebrecht, 4 3-pointers. There was an incident after the game that you may have seen the story on Finger Lakes 1 where there was a racist remark made from the stands at the York game, but it looks like it was handled well by both schools' administrations, and maybe that'll be the end of that. So no need to get into that. But what I do want to talk to you with you guys here as we finally bring you back into the show here is Class C in boys Section 5 basketball. There's a Class C1 and C2. In C1, you got Gananda and Lions, also Bloomfield, Dundee, HAC, Clyde Savannah, and Red Jacket also in C1. And then in C2, you have Naples and Honeoye, the two FL West teams that just faced off this week, at least for a quarter and a half. And then South Seneca also in Class C2. But I think it's a good time of year, guys, to kind of look at these teams and first of all, how many legitimate sectional champions do we have in C1 or C2? And then who's the most likely local team to maybe emerge from Class C and go on to the Far West Regional to play for a chance to go to the state Final Four?
Well, that's a good question, and I think we should begin by we'll throw up the C1 standings here really quick so we can all kind of take a look at that. I think Lions has to be, in terms of the C1 side of things, still the going favorite, if you will.
The team to beat.
Yeah. I do think maybe Gananda can poke a little bit here and see what happens. It's interesting, right, because Lions is familiar with Pembroke a little bit. Obviously, it's been a couple of years since they've seen each other, but that was a crossover game to get to the Far West Regional. I think realistically, in the sense of, like, obviously it's sport looking at the standings, right? I'd go Lions through probably World of Inquiry in the realistic side of things, just because we play sports, right?
Yep.
So just looking at that, though, I'd say it's Lions, and then I'm still pretty high on Gananda, so I'll probably go Gananda like second, just follow the way the standings are at that point, with the Lions being the step above at this point.
What do you think, Kyle? Just looking at C1 for now.
Yeah, for me, I think Lions is my only option. Gananda is 12-1, and of course you can't take their wins away. But looking at quality wins, Lions has far more than what Gananda has.
Much tougher schedule.
And then when they met the first time, Lions beat them by 22. So
right. They will meet one more time.
Yep, coming up in actually next Wednesday.
And so that'll be a big game there. But yeah, I mean, I think going into this discussion, Lions is traditionally the team in C to beat throughout Section 5. With the second most sectional titles in Section 5 history. So you look at C1 and you see Gananda, but it's kind of mentioned less by 22. But could the team to trip up Lions come out of C2? If we look at those standings right now, North Star Christian is always a tough draw.
Yeah, that's my biggest question mark here is what are they actually like?
12-1, and Fillmore 13-0, Cuba Rush. So there's some good teams in C2. You could argue that maybe the competition's a little tougher in C2, but there you have Naples and Honeoye, both having great seasons. Honeoye may be disappointed a little bit in the fact that they lost the head-to-head matchup with Lions, and then they were upset. Who was the team that upset Honeoye?
ER.
Yeah, East Rochester. I guess you call it an upset in the way that we were touting Honeoye this year. And then Naples quietly has been just winning games. Again, strength of schedule perhaps, but they do have some quality wins. And then the one loss comes to Honeoye in a game that was started in December and just finished this past Saturday, where they played the last quarter and a half. So that's tough to really gauge too much from that result. And they'll play again.
Yep.
So just take a look at Class C2 here, fellas. And first of all, how will Naples and Honeoye stack up, or even South Seneca, who's struggling to get back to 500, but has proven that they can play with better teams. But how much of a chance does Naples or Honeoye have to come out of C2, and then whoever wins C2, how are they going to do against the team? Let's just assume that Lions win C1. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at it, right, we already kind of know, like, we do have a head-to-head result. Lions beat Honeoye.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that. We know Honeoye beat Naples.
Fairly close game, though.
True, but we have the head-to-head result.
Yep.
Right. It's interesting kind of looking overall at C2 because let's look at it this way. Lions dispatched of York pretty well.
Right.
York is 9th seed at 8-4. Honeoye dispatched of Keshequa back in December pretty well as well. So it's a little bit of like, okay, how do we really gauge some of these teams? You know, kind of how we see head-to-head. I mean, I think Honeoye, it's tough because, right, you look at the seed, you have the seeding point, the weighted thing that they do because of how it breaks down and stuff like that, and that's the way it really kind of falls on the boys' side of how they do it. So I think Honeoye is like a very deceptive 5 if you look at it from that standpoint, obviously. I'd put Honeoye, if I were to just like rank, I'd say Honeoye for sure number 1. And then after that, it gets a little bit weird. I will say this, it really does play in Naples' favor. Like you mentioned, Jim, Mount Morris is fighting at the top of Class D.
Mm-hmm.
You can say what you want, but the difference between C2 and D is not exactly a cavern. It's
a lot of these
close.
teams are sometimes in Class D,
Yeah.
including Honeoye, including Naples, including Notre Dame, Batavia, and York. So,
Yeah. So I mentioned it when we broadcasted the game. I'm going to say it again. My expectation is having a Lions Honeoye state qualifier game sometime in mid-March.
well,
that is my expectation.
That would be fantastic, but I just keep looking at North Star Christian, and Fillmore and Cuba Rushford, all good teams. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I still like Honeoye's chances. You got to remember this is pretty much the same team last year that made that state final run. They had a little rough patch.
D though, right? Or no, they were in C. They were C last year. Okay.
They hit a little rough patch here, but quietly again, they've already won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Looks like Landon Washburn is still doing what he's doing. I do think they are better than Naples, even though we'll see again when they meet. And I was looking at some of the schedules for the other teams that are, ahead of both of them, and kind of soft schedules. I've been looking at some records too of the teams they played. There are a couple quality wins in there, but
there's nothing in there you can pick out where like a North Star Christian beat a, say a Newark or a Lions caliber team.
Yep, no. And a lot of teams don't like, scheduling some of those tough games,
Right.
sectional points and all that.
Yep.
So I think this is kind of a little bit of an example. So I'll take Honeoye as still the team to beat here.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really exciting playing game. Of course, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but it is that time of year where we got to start looking at this stuff and kind of seeing what potential matchups could be. And and what's great is to see Naples having a great season. They obviously have a solid team in Colin McKenney and Maddox Manella, Isaac Ward and company. It reminds me back of the I have trouble remembering kids' names. I remember Noah Gorton from a Naples team that went undefeated into the sectional semifinals where they lost to Wheatland, Chili, and Bloomfield.
I don't think they'll have to worry about that this year.
That's true. So, anyways, good stuff in C, Class C. Maybe next week we'll take a look at the B classes for the boys. But for now, let's move on to the girls' week that was in Section 5. And, Penn Yan is quietly, putting together quite a resume on the season here. They defeated Dundee Bradford 29-20. Then they defeated Mid Lakes 39-27. Bailey Cooper leading scorer for Penn Yan in both those games, 11 points versus Dundee and 23 versus Mid Lakes. And one reason I think we don't get too excited about Penn Yan is because the low scores. I mean, they beat Dundee Bradford 29-20, 29 points. But they're getting it done with defense.
Defense.
And if you remember, they upset Waterloo last year in sectionals with their defense. Experienced team, forcing other teams to play their style. Definitely want to keep a close look on Penn Yan, who's now 10-3 on the season. Interesting week for Marcus Whitman. They go on the road and lose to Clyde Savannah, a good Clyde Savannah team, 39-32, without one of their leaders, Maggie Digert, she's not playing now. I don't know when or if she'll be back. I don't know if we have an update.
Yeah, I got word from their head coach. It's pretty much season ending, career ending because she's a senior.
Yeah,
she's
terrible.
their leading scorer, averaging about 16, 17 points a game. And you can tell immediately how much of an impact she makes with some of the game scores. So, yeah, that's a huge loss and probably changes the whole – well, I forgot. They're non-league now. I'm thinking it's going to change the West. But
they're independent.
So I guess it won't change too much in the West.
But credit to Liz Royston and her girls. They did bounce back from that Clyde loss this week with a 46-44 win over Gananda to improve to 8-4. Sophia Snyder, 11 points to lead the Wildcats. HAC picked up a win to move to 9-4 against Romulus this week. Cadence Brecker with 26 points. The Minders girls get their first league win, hosting Wayne, 49-41. Danielle McDermott with 13 points to lead the Lady Blue Devils. And then the surprise of the week was really the 5-8 or 5-7 at the time, or 4-8, now 5-8, Palmyra Macedon Red Raiders, defeating Newark, handing them their first loss, 41-27. Behind 11 points from Julia Bellinger and 11 from Shelby Greer. And the Red Raiders now won 5 of their last 8 after starting the season 0-5. And that kind of shook things up in the East, especially if you're the Waterloo Lady Tigers, who defeated York, or who lost to York in a non-league game this week, 53-51 to move to 7-4. But then bounced back in a game you heard live on FingerLakes1.com, defeating Bloomfield 55-31 pretty decisively in a game that we thought might have been closer. Gwen Panic with 20 points and Addison Bree with 17, Callum McCombs with 14. And so, my question, Waterloo girls now maybe back in play for the Finger Lakes East title with that surprising Newark loss. But, you're talking about a Waterloo team that went to the state finals in 2022, won it in 2024 or 2023, upset last year, as I mentioned, by Penn Yan. But, Paul, you saw him firsthand with Nate Sharman on the call for FingerLakes1.com on Friday night against Bloomfield. Just give us your assessment of the Waterloo Lady Tigers and how they might stack up against some of these other teams in the past that have made these state runs. Does this team have that in them?
I think it could be there.
But noticeably, eye test not quite the same.
Well, it's such a different feel, admittedly, that I thought with this team compared to the others. And personally, in my opinion, I think for the better a little bit. They seem a little bit more, I guess, free, a little bit more open. A
little less pressure on them to win at all costs?
Maybe. I don't know if maybe that's, the right term to really use, but, just the vibe that they kind of played with against Bloomfield, I really enjoyed. It was a lot of the usual stuff that Waterloo does.
Pressing, defense.
Tough defense, moving quick, active hands, all that type of stuff. But just kind of seeing the reaction when they kind of learned that, what happened in Palmac with the Newark game and everything, I was just I don't know if we would have gotten that reaction a couple of years ago.
So they were aware of that.
Yeah.
That score when it came in.
Yeah. So sitting here now, and it's tough because B1, where they are, I know I'm looking beyond league here for a second, but it's tough because looking beyond in the B1 side of things, you have Hornell, which is kind of like what Waterloo was a couple of years ago, kind of running a buzzsaw on you, if you will. But it's so weird thinking about it in the way that going into Friday night, Waterloo was only 2.5 games back of the league lead, right?
Which this time of year is a lot.
Right, but at the same token, even as I was talking about, I'm it's not that big of a gulf.
Well, they're
it's
going to
very
play him again.
correct.
Newark and Waterloo.
It's easy to make that up. You're right. Not a ton of games left to necessarily do it, but they have that head-to-head, which helps. It'll be interesting too because I know Bloomfield, right, is in the same position a little bit, and they're in the same boat. But like for me with Waterloo, I put them in the same spot I've put them now in the past couple of years, where it's just like I still put them as like a favorite at the end of the day. Like I have to, just
Sectional favorite in B1.
yeah. And league favorite still in the Finger Lakes East in that sense because like they play the same style of basketball they've been playing and it pays off. And yeah, they maybe have a couple more losses this year than they usually do and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, one game was in triple overtime, one was in overtime. like stuff like that can go one possession the other way, and we're talking someone completely different. So I don't know. For
And they
me,
got experience. Gwen Panic was on the state team, I believe. Addison Bree might have been on there as an eighth grader.
Oh yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, for Bree, for Panic, you know, I know Bree's the only senior, but like they were in those positions not that long ago at the state level. Like they know what they're doing.
Right.
And they've kind of taken the leadership roles and ran with it on their own. And
Did a great job in your post-game
Yeah.
interview. I mean, that's one thing I sense that you can tell they were mature,
right.
confident, and having fun.
Yeah. And I think that's what I really mean too when I'm just like, it just feels like a different kind of vibe from that team than the past couple of years, where this year I think they're going out, they're just playing the brand of ball they know how to play, and you know, at the end of the day, however the results play out, they'll play out, but they know what their kind of ingredients are to do this, and they're going to do it, and they know that the success can be there, and they know that they've done it. So, like I said, for me with the Tigers, man, it's hard not to put them as favorites across the board still at the end of the day.
You know, Kyle, you've been following this Waterloo team over the past several years too. What's your general take? I mean, early this year we just saw them drop a couple games, and we were like, oh, you know, I think we had expected them maybe to have a better record than 8-4 right now.
Yeah, I think they did have some tough games on the schedule, and as Paul mentioned, a few of them went to overtime. A couple of them, you know, they didn't come out on the winning side. But I think, you know, as the season's gone on, they've gotten better. Of course, they have a really small roster. That's one noticeable thing. But the girls that are in the roster, I think, you know, like you mentioned, they've been there, experienced a little bit. And I think they're coming together at the right time. Although I will say, if I'm picking a favorite today, I'm still going to roll with Newark to win the East. Now, I'm not saying Waterloo won't make any noise in sectionals, but for the East, I think Newark is still going to end up taking it.
Yeah, Newark's been fantastic all season long.
Yep.
And then Friday night they lose. They got by 14 to Pelmac, to a Pelmac team who was 4-8 entering the game. Now they're 5-8. And you know, we know Pelmac and Newark and Waterloo are all pretty great rivals in recent years, and so a lot of times they say you can throw the records out the window, but I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming or even thought that might be a possibility, that maybe Pelmac could sneak out a win on a buzzer beater or something, but they held Newark to 27. Now Newark's 10-1. It was their first loss.
Yeah, secretly, I would say I use the word secretly because I feel like no one talks about Palmyra Masson, but as you mentioned, they've won 5 of 8, and some of the teams they've played, I mean, they've done a really good job defensively, and I think they just brought that kind of structure and defense into that game, and they held their leading scorer, Karina Natali, to 1 point. I mean, she was averaging, I think it was 17 a game when I checked.
Yeah.
And I even actually emailed their coach, Diane, and asked, did she come out of the game early because of an injury?
Same thing.
And I got confirmation that it wasn't. It was just a, quote, bad night. Yeah. And that's why I think, like, eventually, like, all great teams, you know, usually drop one or have a tough night. And I think this is just one of those nights, and I really, truly expect them to bounce right back and kind of take back off where they were.
Yeah. Although a lot of coaches will probably be looking at that game tape as maybe the formula to stop the Newark Lady Reds. So, but yeah, good week of basketball here. We're in the dog days of winter. Let's take a look at how the power rankings are shaking out. Our last power rankings of January, starting with the boys. Geneva, of course, still number 1, and not much argument with Wayne at number 2. Our Lions at number 2. Now's where it gets a little more interesting. I mean, very fluid. I think that Wayne's pretty good consensus at 3. Honeoye, with their 2 losses, usually a Finger Lakes West team with 2 losses isn't going to bust into the top 5, but they've been there all year, and we're not shaken by their 2 losses. 1 to Lions, and who was their other loss to?
How do you know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
East Rochester.
Oh, yeah, East Rochester. So 2 Wayne County teams, and so then it's interesting to find a 1-loss Gananda team below them because they're in Wayne County, right? Newark boys at 6, and then there's that East Rochester team, and then Naples, 1-loss Naples at number 8, Pelmac and Williamson. So interesting to see the Williamson boys in there. Bloomfield boys and Waterloo boys both receive a vote, but just outside the top 10. I don't know, guys. I had a tough time from 4 to 10, like really deciding, how to do my ballot.
I think for me, this week was a pretty straightforward week, I thought, the way I voted. So the only, I guess, question here for me would be why not Williamson to a degree? I know we talked about it a little bit past couple weeks because they've received some votes and everything. And I'm not
8-4, 9-4. What?
Yeah, and look, I'm not trying to knock Bloomfield or Waterloo or anybody like that, but both Bloomfield and Waterloo did drop. They went 1-1 each on the week, but I view it like I said. That's the way I vote. It's if you win, I'm not going to deduct you for winning at the end of the day. So.
I think it's the same thing as Naples. Well, they were 6-0 and not in their top 10, and then they had to because it's such an odd thing to see that program having success as they've been so. It's been rough.
Yeah.
Same thing with Williamson, obviously, but yeah, I mean, Williamson's probably got another game against Gananda coming up, right?
Yeah.
And so, it all flush itself out. But to see also Newark plays a tough schedule, so you can't just go on wins and losses. The question is, do you think if Newark or Gananda played that Gananda would win? Maybe. I don't know. We won't get to see it. Newark Honeoye, now that would be a good one.
Yeah.
But probably not going to get to see that, or we won't be able to see that one.
Even Newark East Rochester, I think I said it last week.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that matchup.
And that's an old school matchup right there. Going back, those schools have played basketball since the 1940s or whatever, since Jim Boeheim's days. Since Jim Boeheim was playing for Lions. What about you, Kyle? Anything you disagree on the boys' side there for the power rankings?
Well, here's the breaking news. I have a new number 1, and it's Lions. And yes, Geneva did beat Lions, but here's my argument for putting Lions number 1.
Okay.
Lions, again, some of the victories they've had. First off, they're on a 7-game win streak. They have not lost since that Geneva game.
Right.
They've beat World of Inquiry. They've beat York. They've beat Monroe.
Yep.
All
Monroe's
really
a
good
one.
teams.
Yep.
And they beat York by 18. I mean, it wasn't even close. Where Gananda also played York, and they struggled a bit. So I just like the quality of wins. I know at the end of the day, records sometimes overshadow, teams. But for me, I look at quality wins. And I think if you put this Lions team up against, honestly, any one of those teams right now, the way they're playing, how hot they've been shooting and stuff, they're going to win.
Yeah, it's tough to put them ahead of Geneva, seeing Geneva beat them, and Geneva also has a better record, right, with 1 loss for Geneva?
Geneva has 1 loss. Lions has 1 loss.
Oh, they both have 1 loss.
13-1 and 12-1. They're both undefeated in league play.
Yeah, I agree, and of course it was at Geneva, and it came down to the last possession.
Yep.
So I mean, it's not like
On a turnover, too.
Geneva was wildly better than Lions. It was it was a coin toss type of game. In fact, I think it was a game that Lions learned from a little bit. They were just a little, little quick down last minute when they seemed to have the momentum going their way, and then they just seemed to rush and look a little lost on offense. At the end of that game, and I think Coach Young used that as a learning experience, and they've gone ahead and haven't lost since. So, but you wouldn't put Lions ahead of Geneva, would you, Paul? Right now?
They got the head-to-head. I don't know. Now I feel like I'm boxed in. You're making me pick Notre Dame or Miami. But, no, I mean, look, they have the head-to-head right now. Until that changes,
Well, that will never
said.
change.
Well, I'm talking though, like if Geneva say loses another game or something like that. Like
They could
know.
lose to Newark. They could
no,
lose
right,
to
but
Wayne.
what I'm saying the way
Less chance that Lions loses.
you
at
know,
this
like I
point.
said though, the way I vote, you know, and I say it every week. If you win, I can't.
What was your ballot,
Chuck you
Kyle?
for
Was it Lions at 1?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
And Geneva 2, Wayne 3, Honeoye 4, Ganonda 5. Round
Okay.
out the
See
top
that?
5.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's interesting, and it's a good take. You know, it's just because they lost by, what was it, a 3-point game?
Yeah.
2 points.
2 points. So they actually had a ball in the air to win the game outright with that Malcolm Butler 3 that was way off mark.
Malcolm Butler.
Or what's it?
Go on.
Yeah. Smurf.
Yes, you already have Super Bowl on the brain, Jim. I
Right.
see with Malcolm Butler.
So anyways, yeah, it's interesting. And it's great to have two teams solid. You know, Geneva, obviously tougher road in Class A than Lions is going to have in Class C for sectionals, but a couple of really good basketball teams. And so we finally have a little bit of controversy atop our power rankings on the boys' side. Let's see about the girls' side. Yeah, Newark, despite the loss, maintains that number 1 spot. Waterloo, number 2. I know Waterloo don't like to be number 2. They like to be number 1, but right now they're number 2. Bloomfield girls, despite the loss, up there at 3, right behind them. I mean, they're good. Paul, we talked about Waterloo. I'm going to have you talk about Bloomfield in a second. Lions girls at 4, pretty wildly inconsistent. And then Penn Yan, top 5. Good for them. I mean, just win. It doesn't have to be pretty. Did Penn Yan didn't play Lions this year, the girls, did they?
No.
Yeah. Penn Yan's, geez, they might be undervalued right there at 5. And then Marcus Whitman dealing with the loss of their senior leader, hanging in tied for 6 with Williamson and Marion. I don't know what's going on in Williamson this year, but the basketball programs are making a resurgence. And then Clyde Savannah girls at 8. They've had some great wins and some questionable losses. And then Pelmac with a losing record at number 9. But, hey, you just beat number 1 by 14 points. And then the Ganana girls at number 10. I'll start with you real quick, Kyle. Anything on here that you kind of question?
Well, for me, it's tough. You know, Lions hasn't played in 10 days.
Yep.
Penn Yan, yes, they have some quality wins, but then they also lost by 26 to Newark.
Yeah.
So it's like so inconsistent there, but they're still overall a really good record. Williamson Marion, good record. Again, I mean,
Softer schedule.
yeah, and they still have a lot of, I feel like, league games remaining, so I'd like to see a little more from them. Marcus Whitman, you know, they lost their leading scorer, so I had to drop them a bit. But overall, I think my standings were pretty much aligned. Newark, it just felt weird putting Newark still 1, even though I said I still think they're going to win the East. Because when you lose to a team that was, you know, under 500, it's like, how can you? But at the end of the day, though, they beat Waterloo and they
Right.
beat Bloomfield.
Right.
And I had to put Waterloo above Bloomfield because they just beat Bloomfield. So I felt like you couldn't change the order despite the loss.
Yeah, no, just losing the game doesn't necessarily mean you're going to drop out of that top spot, especially when the two teams behind you are teams like you mentioned that Newark is beaten. But what about Bloomfield? They're pretty high in our rankings. Waterloo handled them without much worry, I guess, on Friday night. But talk to us a little bit about the Lady Bombers.
Yeah, I'm still high on them. I had them 3rd. Just looking at the standings, period, the power rankings, 1 through 4 were all unanimous locks for where we placed them.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no debate for that. Look, I'm still high on them. I think Cal McCombs is a really great player. I was surprised. I don't know if she was actually underutilized, but
How
on
does
Friday night,
How does she compare size-wise to like Gwen Panic?
taller.
Taller.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, Cal was the tallest player on the court Friday night. Yeah.
Easily, like no contest.
I mean, I don't think so.
Right.
But
You didn't measure them, but
correct.
just eye test.
yeah. You know, that being said, look, I'm still pretty high on them. You know, I really like what Coach Kimball's doing over there, and it's tough to say. You lose by what they lost by. It's like, come on. But you know, if they hit a couple more 3-pointers, the Falcone sisters, I think they're the true like sharpshooters, if you will, on that team.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't get them to fall Friday, and sometimes basketball's like that. And I'm looking forward to that rematch in a couple of weeks, but like I'm still high on them. I think they can make some noise for them. They're in C2 on the girls' side as well.
Yep.
I think they can make some noise there without any issue. And obviously for them in the West, it's pretty much just them at the top league-wise right now, I think, right? So or in the East, apologies.
Yeah.
My mind wandered to the boys' side there for a minute.
So what are they? They 2 games or 3 games back in Newark, 2.5, 3
Well,
games.
now they're going to be 2.5.
2.5.
I think, yeah. Essentially, them and Waterloo flip-flopped on multiple standings
Right.
Friday night. So, yeah, I'm not concerned, right? It's tough. The way I view it, it's always tough to necessarily maybe worry about one game in particular, right? That for whatever reason, sometimes in sports, one team just has your number, and that's just the way it kind of is. You can't explain it; it just is what it is. So, I'm one of those you can't forget Friday night, but like at the same token, I don't think this writes the season story by any means for Bloomfield.
Yeah, and I'll add quickly, just days before they beat Penn by 8.
Yeah.
Right.
They beat Pelmac, Williamson Marion. They lost to Newark by 3. Remember the buzzer beater?
Right, yeah.
They played the top team in the East really well. So, yeah, that result did shock me, though. When I turned that game on and saw the score, I almost thought it was still the JV game because I'm like, what is going on? But, yeah, the rematch is coming in, 9 days or something like that?
A week now, technically.
Yeah.
In Waterloo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be, and that's always a fun thing to see too. Is okay, let's see how Coach Kimball has, what changes he makes, and Coach Bree will probably make a few adjustments in anticipation, and then they'll run it back and see if Bloomfield has improved enough to make it a close game or pull out the win, which will be pretty big game for Bloomfield and for Waterloo. So definitely. Fun to watch the rivalries on the girls' side. There's just so many of them, and this Waterloo Bloomfield could be a new sparking a new one, for sure. So, speaking of upcoming games, let's take a look at the week ahead for the boys. What games you guys looking forward to on this list?
Well, Wayne at Newark. Well, first off, point out the obvious: no games today, obviously on Monday.
Yeah.
So,
And this schedule reflects that.
correct. Yeah. So. I would say it might be Wayne-centric here. Wayne at Newark tomorrow, and then Wayne at Geneva on Friday are the really two
Oh
main
man,
ones
that is a big week for Wayne, and I tell you, they can It's going to be great to see what Coach Thompson has in store for Newark and Geneva, and they're both on the road.
Yep.
Both a couple of really big games, shorter drive to Newark than to Geneva by about 15 minutes, but a couple of road games there. How about you, Kyle? Anything stand out?
Yeah, I had the Wayne games as the top, but I do want to see how Monroe plays East Rochester on Friday after Lions just played Monroe and beat them by 5. Waterloo Pelmac I think is a little interesting because Waterloo for some reason sometimes they don't look great, but then they give these other teams in the East tough times.
It should be better than their record. I mean, one of the biggest surprises I think of this season for me is that the Waterloo boys kind of not being quite as strong as we maybe anticipated.
And then Wednesday night, the non-league game, Minders, South Seneca. South Seneca has been playing better. Minders, of course, has the talent. Just no consistency whatsoever with that team. And quickly on Wayne, I forgot to mention this. Wayne has not lost since leaving Florida. They're on a 6-game win streak.
And keep in mind, they're playing some really, really good teams down there. So, it's tough to...
They're playing their best basketball right now. And credit to Bill Thompson for... I mean, Aiden Twist is, of course, going to be a big part of the reason, but seems like he's found some other guys, like younger guys, and really pushed them, like this Jack Miles. I think he's a sophomore. It's still a really good team, despite not having Cam Blankenberg.
Yeah, which is a testament to the program that Coach Thompson built here, and this being his final season as well. A little extra motivation to send him out, on a winning note. Of course, again, mentioned, they're going to be in Class A with Geneva, right? Not B. They're in Class, so it's just a little tougher. But boy, when you do win in Class A, you really feel like you earned it, and they've done it twice before.
I mean, Wayne's been the past few years the bell cow in A. They beat East back-to-back years. They make it to the state Final Four both years. I mean, I don't. Yeah, you're minus Cam Blankenberg, but they haven't skipped a beat really, to be fair, since. So.
Yeah, I agree. Although if Cam was there, I'm sure they would have been our unanimous number one choice heading into the year. But I would like to find out how he's doing at prep school too.
Yeah.
I haven't really taken the time to take a look, but maybe next week we'll have a little Cam Blankenberg update for you here on the Upstate podcast. Let's take a look at the girls' week ahead. What stands out here? What are we looking forward to? Bloomfield at Marcus Whitman, Lions at East Rochester,
Clyde at Lions.
Clyde at Lions, which is actually that's where the good stuff in the rivalry is now on the girls' side. Are they playing that at the Atwood?
Oh yeah.
That should be a packed house. Again, the Clyde Savannah girls have been inconsistent, but then again, so is Lions. That should be a good one.
Clyde Savannah though is kind of steady the ship though here the past couple weeks. So I don't know that game. If you talked to us a couple of weeks ago about that, probably a different opinion. But
Art Williams and Marion, Palmac at Waterloo. Yeah. So there you go. Palmac just beats Newark. Now they get Waterloo. South Seneca at Romulus is a rivalry game as well. So yeah, a lot to look forward to this week. We'll talk all about it next week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other ones. Well, you kind of mentioned it, but Penn Yan at Newark too. Kind of interesting to see that.
Yeah, let's see what Newark
could play out. I mean,
Newark could lose 2 straight.
Penn Yan, for what it's worth, this is also big sectional stuff for them potentially. They're sitting second in B1.
Yeah.
For the girls' standings right now. So.
Well, I'll add to that. They got destroyed in the first meeting by 26.
It's true.
And Penn Yan does play a good defense, but not against Newark. They didn't. So I guess rematches. I mean. Anything can happen, but I still give Newark like a 10-point favorite in that game.
Yeah, I would say 10. I keep it lower because obviously Penn Yan grinds it out. Yeah. But yeah, I would give Newark the edge there, obviously. But a great opportunity for Penn Yan to prove that they're legit, and put a little something in the memory bank for sectionals. So. Anything else that wanted to get in this week before we get out of here?
I did get an injury update, but it's kind of minor. I mean, maybe it's more major, but I don't know. Geneva, the boys, Caden Larson rolled his ankle Wednesday night. He played Thursday night, but Ed Collins told me that he was only playing at like 40%. So
40%.
That's the number they gave me. 40% is the exact number they gave me. And he had 6 points in the game, but that's something to watch because if he's not fully healthy, then that's a big loss.
I mean, they got guys that can step up, but certainly from the one game I saw in person, Caden Larson is the motor that the oil that lubes the motor or whatever you want to say there. He's their guy, and a guy that they're going to need to be healthy, heading into sectionals for sure in Class A. So yeah, thanks for that. That's a good update. Anything else, guys?
I got nothing at the moment. Broadcast this week, keep your eyes out, working through some stuff logistically. So
okay, and Kyle's got the night off tonight from having to compile the results.
Yeah. Just got to find what day they're making up. There was going to be like 15 games tonight.
Yeah,
so now I'm trying to find all the new
harder.
dates.
It makes it even more hard because you can easily miss something.
Yep.
When you and getting the rescheduled dates is not a reliable thing. So. Yep. But it's a nightmare for the athletic directors that got to schedule it all, because there's not that many open dates in the next 3 weeks because they got the regular schedule, and then you literally cannot not get it in before sectional starts when sectional start.
23 days left officially.
23, wow.
So hopefully they can find a date in all those.
So they got 23, and probably of those 23 games, they probably already got 6 games. Yeah. Maybe 7.
At least, yeah. Some of these teams.
So, good luck, athletic directors.
Yeah.
Hope it doesn't snow again. Oof. So yeah, that's all I got. Good show, fellas. We're getting down there to the best time of the year for sure. Also means spring's getting closer. Yeah, but yeah, you got to, if you're playing high school basketball, it's got to feel good. You're getting into the gym, you're taking off your boots, putting on the sneakers. I mean, this is why we love basketball up here, in upstate New York. Something to do in the winter for sure. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us again on the Upstate Hoops podcast. Connect with us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and our audio-only podcast is available most everywhere you enjoy your audio content. You can also find our show, live stream games, and local news, weather, and sports 24/7 at fingerlakes1.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week on Monday afternoon with a new power rankings, and we'll run it back again. So until then, have a great week.